you look so handsome.
Well, hello, my dear friends. My name is Miss Chambers, and this is Mr. Cosmo. And today we're going to be talking to you about a new project that we have made for you guys, and that project is called Abstract Piece Paintings. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what is an abstract piece painting? Well, first let's get into what is an abstract painting. Now, abstract art, like you're seeing right here, typically uses shapes, colors, lines, and different kinds of forms to create a final piece. The work can typically be very independent or very free form. Now, the work that we just saw there are three pieces. We saw one by Pablo Picasso, the next one was by Wassily Kandinsky, and then the third one was by Rothko. Now, we are going to be using those paintings we just saw as inspiration for the abstract piece painting that we're going to be doing. So I am breaking down the abstract painting into a puzzle, basically. So this is the piece that I came up doing, and what I did was I used cutout pieces of cardboard and some pieces of printer paper as well to color and then to paste onto a canvas. This back piece right here is my big canvas. So what are the goals of what we're going to be making today? So the primary goals are making a ton of different shapes, and you can choose triangles, you can choose lines, you can choose circles, you can choose squares, any shape under the sun. For my example, I primarily chose trapezoid and triangular shapes. And then from my cardboard that I had, that you'll see in a clip coming up, I had these shoe shapes on the bottom of one of my shoe boxes, and I liked them a lot, so I chose to cut those out as well. And I arranged them in a very specific way, and I chose a whole bunch of different colors to use. And I encourage you to be as free with your shapes, as free with any of the colors you want to choose as well. And if you need any other inspiration, again, you can choose Pablo Picasso, you can choose Wassily Kandinsky, like I showed you before, or you could choose Rothko as well, if you want to take a deeper look into the kind of work that they made to show you the kind of work that you can do in this piece painting. So we'll be cutting out pieces of cardboard, pieces of paper to glue onto what is going to be our final canvas. Along with those artists, you can also just plain look up abstract art, and looking that up will help give you a ton of different shapes that artists have used, a whole bunch of different colors, and just the pieces that abstract artists before have made, which will help give you inspiration as to what you could be doing with our abstract piece painting today. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the work that we're going to be doing today. So let's take a look at some of the materials we're going to be using for this project. So first things first, we're going to need a box. So I have this old box. This is an old box. It's an old shoe box that I have, obviously, by the shoe marks in it. So I'm going to be using this for my quote-unquote canvas, because it's nice and big, and then I can cut out my larger pieces. And it's totally fine if your box has some writing, like we have right here, or some brand marking. You can either cut it up or you can actually use it. I think I might use some of this stuff, especially these shoe pieces in here, because I think that's an interesting design. I think it could add some interesting qualities to our abstract piece painting. And then if you don't have an Amazon or a shoebox, you can also use an old cereal box like this. It's a little thinner, but it will definitely still work for you. And I'm gonna actually end up using both, so I can show you how to use both materials if you'd like. All right, so the rest of the materials we'll need for this project are some printer paper, some scissors, and some glue, whatever glue you have around, whether that's white glue, a glue stick, or hot glue. But remember, always using hot glue with an adult present for help. And then some other materials that we'll need are some markers, colored pencils, or crayons, whatever you have around the house. And if you have paint, you can use paint as well. And you can use all of these materials if you like, whatever you have or don't have. We'll also need some paintbrushes if you have paint or glue for spreading the glue and the paint on your surface. And then last but not least, we will need some newspaper to cover our surface. So first things first, we're going to be cutting out our shoe box. So I have this piece that I cut off from the top, And then what I'll be doing is cutting out the piece that I want. I'm going to be outlining it in Sharpie so that you guys can just see it a little better, see my outlines. And I'm going to be cutting off everything that I don't want. So I'm not going to be using this whole piece. I'll be cutting off the sides right there and to make my canvas for creating my piece. All right, so for me right now, I have cut out my cardboard piece, and now it is time for me to paint my cardboard. And like I said, this is my choice to use paint right now because I have paint on me. If you do not have paint, you can use your colored pencils, you can use your markers, ta-da, or you can use your crayons. And I'm going to be using those in other aspects of my painting, my abstract piece painting, but for now I'm going to show you guys how you can use your paint. So I have some paint squeezed out right here that I will be using. I have some water to help move it around my cardboard, and then I have my cardboard. So if you don't have paint to cover your surface, you can also use markers, your colored pencils, or your crayons as well. But if you are using cardboard and you have any logos, or if your markers aren't showing up as brightly, you can also use printer paper and cut it to the size of your canvas, and you can use that as a blank surface to cover as well. But since I have paint, I'm going to be painting my surface, so you can see how I'm doing that here, covering up any letters, any brand marking, or any of the marks that I made. And now I have my finished canvas here. Now if there's any bowing or if it's bending a little bit, feel free to, once it's dry, put it under some heavy books for a few hours, and that will help it flatten out for you. Okay friends, so now it is time to start cutting out our abstract painted pieces for our canvas. So I just went back into my shoebox and I took those shoe imprints out of the bottom and I cut them out because I enjoyed them too much and I think they would be a total waste to not use. So I cut them out into shoe prints, and we are definitely going to use those in some way. And then I cut out my lovely Kashi cereal box, and I'm going to be cutting some pieces out of this, and I have other cardboard pieces from my shoebox that I will be cutting out for you as well, that we will be adding to our canvas. And then I will show you how I end up decorating those once we've cut them out. Now before we jump into decorating our abstract pieces, I first wanted to show you the different kinds of shapes that you could make. Now for my pieces, I primarily create triangular shapes, but you don't have to use triangular shapes primarily. That's just what I chose to do. For your personal choices, you could use lines. These smaller rectangles here would count as lines. I have a squiggly line here. I have a diamond, a circle, semicircle, rectangle, square, and a whole bunch of different shapes. Now you can even create your own shapes right here. You can use any of these, you can use none of these if you want to. It is totally up to you, and if you want to create your own shapes to use, that's totally up to you. I just want us to focus on creating variation in some way, so in my final piece there were a lot of different colors. Or to create variation, you could also use a whole bunch of different shapes instead of different colors. So those choices are up to you once you start cutting out your pieces and once you start choosing your colors. All right, so I have cut out a whole bunch of little abstract pieces to place all around my canvas. And now it is time for me to use my white printer paper in a way so that I can get a nice white surface to color on. So first things first, I'm just going to trace out some of my pieces. And remember, you don't have to do this for all of your cutout pieces. You can just do this for some of them. You can just use the plain cardboard to color on, but I want some pieces that are nice and bright white for me to color on, and I'm going to show you what I can do with those white pieces. So now it's time to start coloring some of our paper pieces so that we can glue them on top of our cardboard. So I'm personally just coloring mine solid colors, which means I'm just coloring them one specific color. So I did that one in pink, I'm doing this one just in blue, and So you can do yours in patterns, you can use polka dots, you can do stripes, you can do any sort of pattern that you can possibly think of. It is your piece, you have the power to make any decision that you want with it. So I'm using markers, I'm using crayons, and there's a piece that I'm coming up to that I want to use both the cardboard and the white paper. So here I'm coloring the white paper, but the white paper is a little bit smaller than my cardboard piece, so I'm coloring my cardboard, and you see how it's coming out a different color than my white paper. It's a little darker, but I'm using it so you can see both tones. You can see both the darker cardboard and you can see the white paper, so it creates a little more of an interesting piece for me. All right, so I have colored some of my abstract pieces for my canvas. So as you saw, I did some of these guys. I did all of these are all the materials that I've had. So I did this one in crayon, then I did the brown cardboard in crayon as well, so you could see the two-tone and how the crayon looks differently on both surfaces. And then I did some marker here, did some colored pencil right here. And then I also, on these pieces down here, I use my acrylic paint. So you can see how all of these pieces look differently with all the materials and methods that I use. So this one here, again, this was the white paper that I cut out, and then I used the cutout to add some green. So this part down here is the cardboard, and then I have the paper on top to add a nice different color and add some interesting interest, you know? Very interesting right here. So I'm gonna get the rest of my pieces prepped, and then we can start putting them down on our canvas. Okay, so now for our final prepping stage, I am taking any of the pieces that I cut and had colored paper for, and I'm gluing down that colored paper onto my abstract painted pieces. So as you can see, I'm trying to be as neat as possible with my glue so I don't get it on my table. I'm keeping it down on my white printer paper. And then after we have all these pieces glued, we can start piecing together our final work. And now we've done it. We're finally on to moving on to our final piece. So here I am taking all the pieces that I cut out, that I colored, that I glued printer paper on, and I'm slowly moving them throughout the canvas to really find where I want each piece to go. And I'm making sure not to glue quite yet before I'm finally ready and have all my pieces exactly where I want them to be. And then I can glue ever so slowly, one piece at a time. It's really like putting together a puzzle for your final canvas. Congratulations, you've made your first abstract piece painting. Now, as you could see, I was really trying to glue down all my pieces, and for some of my larger pieces, like my shoes, I had to use some of these clips right here to hold it down. So I was just kind of using them to hold down. They might not be able to fit towards the middle, but if you have any pieces that are really kind of lifting up, you can use some of these clips if your parents have them around to really hold them down. So everything is now glued on. I got to use a whole bunch of different shapes, different colors, different forms for my final piece, and I'm essentially happy with how it came out. I really enjoy these shoe pieces, and I hope you find some imprints in your cardboard. I hope you find some pictures in your cardboard that you can incorporate as well. I think that would be a really interesting incorporation to your abstract piece painting, and I also hope you got to use different shapes than I did. I hope you got to use dots, I hope you got to use lines, circles, squares, or if you got to use triangles like I did, how fun. That's so cool. I'm sure if Mr. Cosmo had opposable thumbs, he'd be able to enjoy making his piece too, but sadly, he does not have opposable thumbs, so he just gets to look at my wonderful piece painting. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day. I hope everyone stays safe, continues to stay safe, and stay warm and snuggly with your families. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. admiring your piece painting. See you next time.